All right, YouTube, what is going on? It is Zaya here from Zaya&TheSteelers back with another video. And today's video is going to be our first video of the 2023-24 offseason, 2024-25. I don't know which offseason this is. But it is going to be our first video of the offseason because the Steelers, they lost yesterday to the Buffalo Bills. Very tough game in the wild card game. Another first round exit for the Steelers. And one of the bigger talking points, it was a bigger talking point throughout the entire season, and I've made videos about it, and other people have made videos about it. Other people have gotten their shit off about it. But we are now back in the do we get rid of Mike Tomlin boat? Is Mike Tomlin washed? Is Mike Tomlin number 32 out of 32 total head coaches in the NFL? I kind of want to give my take on it, kind of want to give how my feelings are as a fan. And I would say a rational fan, because there's two sides to this. One side is we should have fired Mike Tomlin years ago, and then the other side is Mike Tomlin can do no wrong, and he's actually like one of he's the best coach in the NFL. And you know, maybe I'm more on that side of him being the best coach in the NFL, but there is definitely some negativities to Mike Tomlin. There's definitely some positivities to Mike Tomlin. And I kind of just want to, let you guys know where I'm at. Now, what are we, like a minute or two into this? I do make Steelers videos, so if you guys end up enjoying this and you enjoy Steelers content or NFL content in general, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Once again, I think we just hit 400 subscribers, so thank you for that. Yeah, I'm here to give you an honest take, here to give you like a fan's perspective, and somebody who's just lived and died with the Steelers, and somebody who's lived and died with Mike Tomlin. Because when we talk about getting rid of Mike Tomlin, we seen it, just a few weeks ago. Bill Belichick is now out. Nick Saban, college coach, but he's now out. Pete Carroll, he's now out. And so we're in a generation of like all of these coaches that we grew up with, kind of similar to the quarterbacks, is like with the Drew Breeses, Peyton Mannings, Eli Manning for what's that worth? Big Ben. That quarterbacks of that era, like they're kind of gone. Tom Brady, they're kind of gone. They're leaving. And of course, in the same breath, the coaches would leave too. But I'm just in the position of I've never had a coach other than Mike Tomlin, man, and the negativities to me, like it definitely stinks to get blown out in the last 6 playoff games. It definitely stinks to get blown out in that first quarter. And I know we made it look good at the end, and it was close there for a second. But we can't continue to get blown out in the first quarters of these games and expect to win. We can't keep doing the same like wrong shit on offense and on defense. We can't keep doing this shit. And when it doesn't work out, just being like, oh well, because it never works. Like it never has gone to where like we've won despite later in the postseason. Now, of course, regular season Mike Tomlin master classes happen all the time. We've won in spite of plenty of things. We've won in spite of injuries. We've won in spite of I guess lack of production. We've won in spite of having bad coordinators. But once we hit that playoffs, once we hit that like late in the season, once we hit that teams have like a week to game plan for us, we have been cooked recently. We have gotten we've gotten killed. And even this last Bills game, like not to be a Debbie Downer, I really think if the Bills, if they just kept if one, that blocked field goal was huge. But also, like, I don't know, it feels like they kind of let up a bit, didn't it? Like, I don't know, 21-0, and then I think the final score was like 32-17 or something like that. Like, I don't know, it didn't feel like we were ever really in the game up until that like fourth quarter 10-minute spot. And even then, it was like we were in the game for 3 minutes. We win penalties, and that's another thing. Penalties. Are we a disciplined team? Are we not a disciplined team? This falls back on Tomlin. It's just tough. It's very tough to judge. It's very tough to be able to evaluate it. To me personally, and shout out to Nick Farbaugh and these two tweets on the screen. We saw, or if you guys didn't see, they asked Naj, they asked a bunch of players just like what needs to change, and they iterated there does need to be some change, but in the same breath, everybody loves Mike Tomlin. There's not a player on the team who maybe they're just trying to keep their spot on the team, so they're not going to say anything bad. But there you ask other players, you ask Antonio Brown right now, even like you ask anybody else, and Mike Tomlin is a great coach. Mike Tomlin is a guy they want to play for, a guy they want to win for. But then it just, as of recently, man, it just hasn't come to light. It hasn't come to fruition. And to play a little bit of defense, though, we look at the playoff games. The Bills, I think we had a chance there, but in hindsight, now that we lost and I got to defend Mike Tomlin, I do got to be like, yo, the Bills, Tony Romo, you guys heard Tony Romo. They're a nice team. They are, maybe a Super Bowl threat. They're a Super Bowl candidate. So there's that. There's the Kansas City games, and it's like, really, were we gonna beat the Chiefs? The last game to me, that's like spooky. Like, man, no business losing that. Of course, was the Cleveland Browns game. We had no business losing that game, let alone starting that game down 24 nothing or something like that. Now we look at that game, and Marquise Pouncey had a bad snap. Big Ben wasn't necessarily, pinpoint accuracy throwing the ball. There was definitely some interceptions. And that's another, like, I keep kind of going on these side tangents, but it's true too. Like the players in the play, like Mike Tomlin can't make our players like, wrap up every time. Like, what are we gonna do? Cut Minka Fitzpatrick for, we can't do that. Like these are things, maybe, if you guys want to be real old schooly, maybe, in practice they're just fucking tackling until sun up to sundown, and it's raining, they're tackling in the rain. It's snowing outside right now, they're tackling in the snow. And no arm sleeves allowed, just straight arm on grass contact. Like, if that's what we got to do, then let's do it. But we're talking about grown men here. We're talking about grown men who've made it to the NFL, and you're like, they can't tackle. Like, what are we, like? No, these are just, it's just mental mistakes, little mental errors. But when they pop up throughout the game, when you couple everybody's mental errors, and let's say we had 5 players with mental errors during the game, that all falls back on Mike Tomlin. And, once again, maybe we can be a little more aggressive in practice with the tackling, because tackling to me has been, a thing that's been kind of sus. But Minka makes that tackle 9 out of 10 times. Minka makes that tackle, makes that play 9 out of 10 times. Miles Jack, I believe, he got an unnecessary roughness on Josh Allen in that same game. That penalty, could go either way, but hey man, we got to be more disciplined. So I'll give it all to Mike Tomlin. We got to be more disciplined. We got to figure out how to limit the penalties. We got to figure out how to play, smash mouth, but smash mouth football, but at the same time fundamental football. Is smash mouth and fundamental, is that the same thing? Let me know. But we got to find a way to lay the hit stick, but also complete the tackle. Minka Fitzpatrick, lay the hit stick, but we also got to complete the tackle. It's things like that like, in the moment, that Minka play was a bad play in the moment. I won't lie. That Miles Jack penalty in the moment was a bad penalty. I won't lie. But when we talk about, like, let's say, like a holding in the first quarter or whatever, necessarily, like, just on paper, not the craziest thing. But the problem is we're getting 5 holdings. The problem is we're getting 3 offsides as well. So just things like that. One, I think it's a little bit more on the players themselves than it is on the coaching. But hey, Mike Tomlin, we got to get it together. Otherwise, we got to figure out what players aren't going to make these penalties and figure out how to do that. But we talk about, we're in a new era. Mike Tomlin has had like 4 different sets of teams at this point. Like, he's had the Cowher team, he's had the late Cowher team, he's had the like early Killer B, then he had the Killer B, then he had like the later Killer B where it was like 2 Bs, 1 cup. And now we're at like just fucking nothing. Now we're at the Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph era, George Pickens era, Cam Hayward late stages, at TJ Watt. We're in the TJ Watt era, I guess. And throughout all these eras, like, maybe discrediting the Cowher one, we've been a bad tackling team. So, Tomlin, let's figure that out, please. Another thing too that has been like probably the biggest red flag, the biggest hindrance to Tomlin, is his choices of offensive coordinators, or not offensive, just coordinators in general. Because when you look at it, I was just thinking like there's a Lions coordinator, right? There's a Lions coordinator. I believe his name is Ben Johnson, he's their offensive coordinator, and he's up for head coaching spots, right? And I was just thinking about it, bro. We haven't had a coordinator sniff like a promotion from outside in a while. I don't think we've had that since Bruce Arians. To me, and maybe Mike Munchak, who went to Denver, but he was in the same role. Like, we haven't had a coordinator like even come close to getting some kind of promotion from outside or even within. Like why can't we have these coordinators? Why has Tomlin kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say like led the charge or whatever, because he is the coach and he's allowed to do that. But when we've had so many seasons of unsuccess, when we've had so many seasons of us booing the offensive coordinator, like, you got to take it out of his hands. And I think that's going to happen at this point. Like, there's no way Tomlin is going to fall on his sword for another offensive coordinator. Like, I think it's going to be somebody else else picks, like maybe whether it's Khan, and of course Tomlin's going to have input on it, but I don't think he's going to be the sole guy with that anymore. And that to me is a huge red flag. That to me is like a very big hindrance to the I want to say legacy or whatever of Tomlin. But it's just weird. It's just sus. It's just weird that we can't get a coordinator. But when we look at how our coordinators have been, why the hell would Matt Canada be getting a job as a head coach and he can't even offensive coordinate Kenny Pickett? You know, like it makes sense as to why they're not getting promotions. But the problem is we're using offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, special teams coordinators. Shout out to what's his name? I'm not talking about our special teams coordinator either. The guy with the gun. I can't think of his name right now. But Dan Smith. Where I'm not talking about him. He's the GOAT. But you know, all these other coordination spots, like none of them are ever getting promoted. None of them are ever up for a different job. And you would like that, you know, if you're a successful team, you know what happens to successful teams? They lose their offensive coordinator due to promotion. They lose their defensive coordinator due to promotion. They lose these pieces on their team. We've been chilling with Matt Canada for years. And it's only really been 3 years, but 3 years too long. You know, we've been chilling with Terrell Austin, before him, it was Keith Butler. Like, we were chilling. We were chilling with Randy Fichtner. We were just chilling with Todd Haley even. And to me, Todd Haley, you know, had his successes. Todd Haley was a pretty good offensive coordinator, but he goes to a different team in the Browns. I think some personal stuff happened, and, you know, now that's it. You know, now he's not coordinating. No offense, you know, not trying to speculate, slander, or whatever. Maybe some things happened as to why Todd Haley didn't get, you know, the craziest of pushes, and maybe he even had stuff before us. But just in general, you know, no, it's not like he was getting clamored for. I don't think it's not like we were like gonna lose him to fucking Arizona because they're blowing it up again for the 18th time this year. And they're gonna, you know, get new coaches. Like, that never happened. I don't remember Todd Haley being sought after like this, like Ben Johnson on Detroit is. I don't remember Todd Haley being sought after like Mike Vrabel is, you know, former head coach candidate. But Mike Vrabel, he's wanted to be a defensive coordinator. Mike McCarthy of the Cowboys, like people are saying, yo, we should bring Mike McCarthy in for offensive coordinator. We should bring in Mike Vrabel for defensive coordinator, and we should have Mike Tomlin continue to be the coach. It was just Mike, and Mike, man. Hey, and Mike Mooncheck, we got our offensive coordinator, Mike Mooncheck. We bring him back, and you know, hey, man, maybe. But once again, it's just, you know, we got to get these coordinators from other places. We got to get these coordinators from other teams even. And when it's time for us to, like, hey, you know, you want to inflict some of this steel curtain defense on your defense. Hey, you wanna, you know, black and gold. You want to renegade. You want to have these kind of players. Come get our defensive coordinator. That hasn't happened. I think, what's his name? Dick LeBeau, I believe, went to the Titans, and I believe was still a defensive coordinator. Dick LeBeau was, you know, somebody who probably could have been in an expanded role. I don't want to speculate once again because just this is me talking to the tweet. You guys seeing what I'm seeing. So Dick LeBeau maybe was out here like as a younger coach and maybe got opportunities as a younger coach. But for the most part, he was our defensive coordinator. And after he was our defensive coordinator, that was really it. And so we got to find these younger talent guys. We got to find the you know, not to, you know, shout out to Pitt football, man. But Pitt football, they hired a offensive coordinator from like, I don't want to disrespect, but like maybe even Division III football, like no lie, right? And it's like, ha ha ha, Pitt, ha ha ha. But this guy in where he was, and like I'm not even looking it up because the Steeler video is not necessarily most important, but you know, in the conference he played, in the football division he played, you know, he was dominating on offense. He was doing shit like unheard of. His offensive schemes were different. They were way different than what Pitt was running. And now we're bringing him in, and we're bringing some of his players too with it to run this new system. Fam, we need to find somebody who's running a completely different system. We need to take Mike McDaniels and Tyreek Hill and bring them over. That's at the point that we are at, you know, and we have to be a completely new team. We have to be a completely different team in what we do. Now, of course, we can always run the ball, and of course we got to figure out how to do that and establish that. But the passing game, we saw glimpses, we saw glamours of what we can be with Mason Rudolph and this currently talented team. And this the same team with Deontay and George Pickens and Muth and in the line, you know, this same team with Mason Rudolph in it even can have some success, you know, with being able to run the ball and throw the ball. They can have some success with that. Now we up it. We get an actual offensive coordinator. No offense to Eddie Faulkner and Kevin Sanders or whatever. Kevin Saunders. Is that his name, Kevin Saunders? I think I'm tweaking with that, but you know what I'm saying. The two offensive coordinators we have now, the quarterbacks coach and the running backs coach, you know, they've been kind of tag teaming our offensive coordination. And you know, in phases of that, it's worked. Like we've even found success with that, with Mason, with all that. Now, if we get like a kind of offensive guru kind of guy, just somebody having success somewhere else, you know, somebody having success. Guys, we were coming off of Matt Canada, who for 3 years was having no success at all. At the end of the day, wins were happening, but we look at his offensive stats, bad, horrible. So we can go get anybody. If they are putting up 300 to 400 yards a game, if their offense is averaging 25 to 30 points, hey man, it could help. It really could help. And so Mike Tomlin, we got to figure this out. I don't think, he's going to have input, of course, but I don't think he's going to be like the sole guy, the sole hire from within, like let's just promote our co-quarterbacks coach to offensive coordinator of the Steelers. Like, I don't think that's going to happen this time around, which is good. And it will definitely help to take, I guess, I don't want to say blame, because of course he's going to get blamed, but Mike Tomlin having Matt Canada as like his right hand guy and the guy he promoted, like, it didn't look good for Tomlin. So having somebody different, somebody not exactly as attached to Tomlin, I think can really help the kind of power scaling, the kind of, is it his fault, is it her fault, is it her fault, but is it his fault, is it his fault, is it his fault, is it his fault. But other than that, like, other than the coordination things, other than us just never being ready for playoff games, like, and these are huge red flags, but I'm just still at the point where I love Mike Tomlin. I do love the Steelers a lot. I do love the Steelers as well as I love Mike Tomlin. But I would like to see change. We need to see change. However, I still think we can find this change with Mike Tomlin. This is a guy, like, his resume. The playoff wins haven't come the most. But when we look at the teams, we look at the talent that we've had on the team versus the talent we are playing. And at the same time, like, we've had so much regular season success that you got to count it. You have to count it. To me, you have to count it. Like, we can't just fully scale Mike Tomlin is a horrible coach and he needs to be fired and he's terrible. We can't do that and then, like, can't even acknowledge his good wins. We can't, like, there is no way you can be that far onto that side. To me, with what we've seen with the successes we've had. So it is what it is. I'm still here saying we should keep Mike Tomlin. The players like Mike Tomlin. But let me know what you guys think. Once again, as far as actual coordinators and people to pick up, I will definitely do more research about that. Like, the kind of the names right now are like Mike McCarthy and shit. So I definitely want to go more in depth and figure out who I think is actually the best candidate for us, whether, they decide to hire them or not. Same thing, low key, same thing on defensive coordination as well. Terrell Austin, man. Man, we had nothing for Josh Allen, and I get there's injuries, but there's always injuries, isn't there? Like, we had nothing. Wide receivers open AF all the time. So we will see about that. Let me know what you guys think of Mike Tomlin down in the description or down in the comments below. It's funny, like I said, like, weeks ago we were doing this, and then, like, Mike Tomlin, it was good again, and, like, no Mike Tomlin, and now it's right back on Mike Tomlin. All I'm seeing is people talking about Mike Tomlin. All I'm seeing is discussion over Mike Tomlin. So I kind of wanted to get it out there. I like Mike Tomlin. He's doing his thing. We just, all it has to do is work once. And it has worked once. He literally has a Super Bowl, but it's Cowher's team. Like, what are we even talking about right now? Like, it's just crazy. Like, it's crazy the standard people hold Tomlin to, but they don't keep that same energy with other coaches, that same energy even with other players. It's just like, oh, Tomlin won with his team. And 4 years removed from that, when he went to a Super Bowl again with that same team, and I mean, he lost, but he still went to the Super Bowl. We still had the playoff wins. That's what we need, playoff win. He hasn't ever won a playoff game. This dude went to the Super Bowl twice, but hasn't won a playoff game. And, like, it's his roster. Like, what do we even talk? Like, Cowher instilled this much. I get it. Cowher was a great coach. But, man, we really got to count that, too. If you guys have seen Naruto and Naruto Shippuden, this is a big Naruto shirt. We're really late in the video. If you guys have seen Naruto and Naruto Shippuden, spoilers, man, I'm not going to get to it. But just know there's a character that puts in a lot of work, and then all of a sudden it's a different, and it's like, oh, that counts. Man, whatever, man. Mike Tomlin is the GOAT. Mike Tomlin, he does his thing. It's his team, too, damn it. And he won the Super Bowls. And he went to the Super Bowl again, and he's had the playoff wins. So we got to count it. We have to count it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below, as I mentioned. Peace out, and I will see you in the next video.